Okay, so for those of you who need a few more examples of tic-tac-toe before you try some on your own, I'm going to give you a couple more in this slideshow. So let's factor 6p squared minus 7p minus 5. Again, I'm going to write the board out. If you're actually in my classroom, I'll be walking through some of these in my head and showing you how. But for right now, let's pretend you know nothing and we're just beginning. So let's do 6p squared minus 5 and multiply them together. That's minus 30p squared. Now let's bust up that variable, give each of the bottom boxes a p, and then write my linear term complete with his sign, minus 7p. That's my setup again, and that's the part that I do without thinking. As a matter of fact, that 30 right there is the first thing that goes through my head when I'm trying to do it in my head. So I'm thinking factors of 30. So while we're getting used to it, we're going to list them all out, starting with 1 and counting up. 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 4 does not go into 30, 5 times 6, I've already said 6, but he's next, so I'm through. That's the only 4 possible factor pairs that are going to work for me. Now, because 7 is negative, I know all of these bigger guys are going to be negative. Because this is negative, I got to multiply up to get a negative answer, which means I had to multiply different signs to get that negative answer. So these little guys are all positive. That way I've got different signs to multiply and get a negative, but the big guy is going to be negative so that when I add them, the 7 will be negative. So now it's time to play the adding game, and I can add them, but I give you a hint. The larger numbers will always be at the top, and the smaller sums will always be at the bottom. Since 7 is kind of small relative to 30, I'm going to start at the bottom. 5 plus negative 6 is negative 1. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm looking for negative 7. 3 plus negative 10, well, there is my negative 7. So this is what I call my winning pair. So I'm going to take the 3 and the negative 10, and I'm going to put them here in boxes 4 and 5. Okay? Then I'm going to double check myself to make sure I'm doing it right. So negative 10 times 3 is negative 30. 3 plus negative 10 is negative 7. Now again, these 3 games, finding this pair, that's the key. It's the key to making it work, and it is the key to learning to do this in your head. Okay, so then I'm going to find the common factors. 6 and 3 have a 3 in common, and both guys had a p. From the top and the right, 6 and 10 have a 2 in common. Both guys had a p. Now watch this, multiply up. 2 times 3 equals 6. It checks. If I multiply up and get 12, I should have taken a common factor out to begin with, but we haven't done those yet. But just in case that happens in the future, that's what it means. Now I'm going to multiply up. 3p times what is 3p? 1. 2p times what is negative 10p? Negative 5. And here's my question. Is negative 5 times 1 negative 5? Yes, it is. So I have done tic-tac-toe, and I've done it properly. So my answers are found on the diagonals. 3p plus negative or minus 5. And then the up diagonal, 2p plus positive 1. Final answer. Okay, one more time. Let's factor 8h squared minus 24h minus 320. Oh my goodness, Miss Harold, are you serious? 8 times 320? I don't know that number, neither do I, don't worry. But look, I think I've got a common factor. I think I can factor out an 8. That leaves me with 1h squared. I like that a whole lot better. Minus 3h minus 40. Now I'm going to factor the trinomial and put the 8 on my answer. Okay, so when I do my tic-tac-toe board, now if you leave that 8 in there, there's more than one way for tic-tac-toe to work, and that just gets confusing. So get that common factor out first. Then I'm going to say quadratic term, constant term, multiplied together. Bust up that variable and write the linear term complete with his sign. Now I'm ready to play the 3 games. And again, these 3 games are the key to making it work, and it's the key to learning to do it in my head. So I want factors of 40. 1 times 40, 2 times 20. By the way, what am I thinking if I'm trying to do this in my head? I'm thinking I got to multiply together to get 40 and add together to get 3. And since they're going to have different signs, I want to find factors of 40 that are 3 units apart. Now, if I can just come through and tell you what that is, then I'm good with it. Okay. Oh, 4 times 8 didn't work, did it? Let's make that 4 times 10. I was thinking, and here's what I was thinking, 5 times 8. 3 units apart. Okay. So I'm going to stop here, even if there's more, and there's not. But even if there were more, I would stop here because I see I've got factors that are 3 units apart. Now the big guy's got to be negative. The little guy's got to be different. So 8's going to be negative, 5's going to be positive, and that's going to be my winning pair. Now I'm going to write them right here, and especially since I hadn't had a whole lot of practice with it, I'm going to double check everything. 5 plus negative 8 is negative 3. Negative 8 times 5 is negative 40. So it double checks. It is going to be factorable, and I'm almost there. So what do h squared and each of those guys have in common? Clearly only an h, and h times h is h squared. Well, h times 5 gives me 5h, and h times negative 8 gives me negative 8h. And negative 8 times 5 is negative 40. So I know I did it right. I just have to read my diagonals, h minus 8 and h plus 5. Now, fair warning, this is where so many students miss it because they forget to bring that 8 down here. It must be there for your problem to be correct.